everyone. Welcome to Weekly Recap Part 2, which is a continuing conversation from Part 1. So if you haven't seen Part 1, we'll link it.
Definitely.
And I think that the big thing that's been this theme for the last several videos, unfortunately for the last several videos, and definitely for this one, is everyone seems to be focused on their own agenda rather than knowing what's really going on, right? So everyone's running around with whatever they hear. They're just running with it. As soon as they hear something, they're not checking their facts, and they're not thinking about the future trajectory of these things. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing this all over the place. We have 3 prime examples here. But you've got people from the smallest people on Twitter who are getting attention for pushing narratives and agendas all the way up to the big, so-called journalists that are essentially creating tribalism with their followers.
They're creating true tribalism. We joked about that earlier in the year.
Yeah, so Ryan McCaffrey said that about the pricing of the X when we found out about it.
Well, basically to try to summarize his whole points on these series of tweets. Yeah. He was saying that if you're at all okay with paying $4.99 for a console, the X in particular, that's tribalism. You that's basically
like a prime example of
if you're okay with paying the money, if you're defending it at all,
if you're okay with Microsoft pricing it,
if you're gonna enjoy it on any level, tribalism. He basically stated, he threw down the gauntlet and drew a line in the sand in front of Microsoft and said, "I am out. I don't care what you guys are doing in the future. I'm done with you."
And forever, that's been his agenda from that point forward.
Yes, it has.
And ironically enough, he has been the one creating tribalism because he's putting forward these huge narratives, these huge agendas, mostly against things.
Not just him. Alana does it a lot. Some of the other people that are bigger personalities there do it.
And IGN and GameSpot in particular, but lots of them are doing this. But we're also seeing some of the really small, like YouTubers and people on Twitter and all kinds of people doing this. Here's a great example. Here's a great, really bad example. The entire situation that happened with EA's Battlefront 2 microtransaction situation. Yeah. So let me sum this up. Essentially, you have a situation that's gone 5 steps beyond what we've ever seen this situation go. Where EA launches Battlefront 2 and Kotaku comes out with an article followed by many other articles from many sources, big and small, saying this is absolutely unacceptable. These microtransactions are unacceptable to the point that, and this has never happened before, to the point that EA pulls them.
Yes.
EA pulls the microtransactions, says they essentially posted something, the developer, DICE, posted something after Kotaku's article saying that the article really saddened a lot of the people.
They've been shamed, basically.
They were basically shamed, the people who really worked hard on the game. And so all these people are running around, journalists and not, thinking, look at this huge victory we just won. We just won the war on microtransactions. And I'm over here looking at the 5 and 10 year trajectory of this going, oh my goodness, we are in big trouble. This isn't... this isn't good. It's only good in one sense, which is that the developer is listening, and more so the publisher, because it's really EA that makes these decisions that they're listening. Yeah, that's it. That's the only good. But that was already happening, so we really didn't need to win this justice war on this microtransactions thing.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the publisher, because at the end of the day, with everybody congratulating everyone for canceling their pre-orders and celebrating not purchasing this game and not supporting this dev, DICE is the one that's making the game. The dev is the one that gets hurt by this. EA is still going to get their money one way or the other. They're going to... The publisher always takes off the large portion at the top, and then...
EA is not going to suffer for this.
Yeah, EA is not going to suffer. The people that are celebrating that, they think they've hurt EA. No, they really haven't.
You can't hurt a company like EA.
If anything... You hurt the people that were working hard on this game at DICE.
Who are not making big profits, who are not making a bunch of money. EA is making the money. And so let's look at where this starts and where it goes. So you start removing microtransactions because people are so mad about them now. When we've had them around for years and years, all of a sudden it's this big agenda.
Been around for a while.
That's the thing, is all of a sudden everybody's pushing this 15 times harder when they want to. And not when they don't.
Yes, lots of companies have been selling microtransactions on their games. Naughty Dog's been doing it for a while. Sony's been doing it. So Bethesda, I think, has a little bit of that.
Everyone has always done this. Yeah. Where's Bungie's crap? Why hasn't Bungie had to pull their microtransactions out of Destiny 2?
Bungie does is actually quite a bit worse. We've said this before. They get away with murder. They can sign exclusivity deals with certain platforms where they're getting paid money,
a lot of money,
to keep content off other platforms. There's those two words again, other platforms. And nobody bats an eye. All these people complaining about microtransactions.
So we're not okay with paying for microtransactions and a company making money for that, because ultimately what we're hearing is it's not okay for companies to make money off this.
Yes.
But it is okay for them to sign a really pricey deal where they keep content from you. And you don't even get to choose that. If you're on the wrong platform, you're on the wrong platform. And you don't think they're making money for that?
Well, a lot of people that are big Destiny fans went out and bought a PlayStation to get that content. No one's going to talk about that, but that happens.
And now we're not going to talk about the extra $400 that you just spent?
Yeah, and now you're getting beyond microtransactions at that point. You're spending a lot of money.
Yeah, you would have to buy a lot of microtransactions to end up at that level.
Yes, yeah.
And so you start removing microtransactions. And I think we should talk a little bit, because I think a lot of people don't think about this. Let's talk about break even, and let's talk about how much further we have to go than that.
Yeah.
So a game has a budget, and a lot of times we kind of know what the budget was, or we suspect what the budget was. And until we sell enough, until the developer, the publisher sell enough to hit the amount of money they put in, they're losing. But
definitely.
A lot of people seem to be coming from a perspective of like, yeah, you break even, and then you go just a little beyond that, and then you don't get any more money. You're cut off. That's all you should be getting.
Yeah.
You have to make several times over the budget, because otherwise, let's say you break even, and then you have enough for everybody to get paid. What did you just waste 7 years on?
7 years of development. These companies are not...
no profit.
Some of them are 5 years. Some of them are as low as 3 years. But these companies aren't doing that for the heck of it. They're not doing it to break even and then just be okay and say, okay, we'll do that again for another 3 years. They need to make profits to keep the doors open.
Profit, and it has to be quite a bit of profit. Yeah. And I think people think that these devs and these publishers are making a lot more profit than they are.
Well, the publishers are, but again...
The publishers are, but the devs aren't.
Yes, yeah.
And people think that these devs, that these individual devs are making so much money that they should be cut off, that they shouldn't be allowed to make more. And people seem to be thinking of microtransactions like it's all this extra money in their pocket. And I think what people don't realize is microtransactions is a big part, like in some cases, a quarter of the profit they have to make to get published again. Because again, here comes EA, here comes the publisher. They have to hit a certain profit on their previous game for them to even be considered or published.
Yeah, we heard about Visceral Games and the Dead Space series, and how we're not going to get another Dead Space game. We're not going to get anything in that universe again. Visceral's shut down. That's EA also. They're the publisher. Yep. They're the ones that were putting those games out for Visceral. That's gone. That's completely gone. What could that studio have done had they had more microtransactions? They had things that people could buy, cosmetics, these little card packs that people love opening. You see them on streams all the time. People are opening up these card packs and flipping them over and getting excited, or not, whatever. Doesn't matter. That's, people that buy those have the money to do that. And the people that don't buy those and don't have the money, it's no skin off your back.
They're still benefiting.
Yeah.
Those people are still benefiting, but from the people that want to spend the money and the people that want to do the microtransactions, they're taking care of that percentage of profit that the company needs. And that's the important thing, is the company needs that. It's not extra icing on the cake. These devs aren't rolling in money. And that
some of them are. The Grand Theft Auto dev is definitely rolling in money. But not everyone is in that boat.
Yeah. And I think we need to start thinking of it a bit more as it's a critical part of the profit. And there's other things that are a critical part of the profit that you're going to see disappearing as we're forging forward in this war against them.
Well, you've got to, before you go to that stage, you've got to cover it's not just the 7 years that went into the development to break even and make maybe $20 million on one game. These companies are huge. We're talking, multi-$100 billion companies. EA is one of them. Microsoft's one of them. Sony's one of them. They're not going to do 7 years of development for $20 million profit. That's it.
No, most of them would set their profit as being 5 to 10 times.
A lot of times,
what they spent to make it.
Some of them, or 5 to 10 times $20 million at the very least.
Right.
And then you've got to factor in other things, other costs that come around. They have buildings that they have to pay for. They've got salaries for everybody that works there,
including people who continue
the marketing. Yeah. Look at Batman versus Superman, that movie there. Like, a lot of people have said that's a failure, even though it eventually ended up making its money back. It was $400 million to produce the film, so it ended up making around $800 to $900 million. So you'd say, wow, that's a lot of profit. No, it's not, because after the film was done, they spent another $400 million on just getting the word out,
The
marketing, merchandising, all the other things that come along with it. So they had to make that back at the box office as well.
So you're essentially sitting at break even when it looks like you've made all this money.
Video games are essentially the same thing as movies now. They work on the same level. Some of them are less expensive, obviously, but they're still working on that level. So you've got to be able to make money that's rolling in after the game comes out, so you can keep the lights on in the building, keep paying all your employees to work on the next game.
Not only the next game, but keep maintaining the servers, keep maintaining the game, keep fixing the bugs. There's continuing work on the same title. And then you've got to hit this giant number that's so many times over what it costs to make the last one to get any kind of permission or ability to go on and make the next one.
Yes.
So we're sitting here demanding the next game. Battlefront 3 is a great example of something I'm sure people are expecting. And yet we're not willing to get them to those numbers. Yeah. And we don't have control over what those numbers are. The publishers do.
Yeah.
And EA's numbers are high. You've got to do really well for EA to publish you.
Yeah.
That's why they're worth so much. So it's interesting because first you start removing microtransactions. Then you've got devs having to worry about profit because they've lost a percentage of their profit. They didn't lose their icing on the cake. They lost a percentage of what they needed to make.
Yeah.
So then they could make the game more expensive, right? So somebody's going to try that. Somebody's going to try it.
In the next couple of years, it'll probably happen.
Everybody else is going to stand by and watch that person just get buried.
Yeah.
Just absolutely eaten alive for increasing the cost of their game. Then, what happens after that?
Then, if you can't increase the price of your game and get your profits that way...
And you can't have microtransactions. And pretty soon you're going to see people saying no season passes, no DLC.
No, people are already saying no season passes, no DLC.
No season passes, no DLC, no nothing. Okay, so all that's gone.
I'm hearing that constantly now. So then what do you do to skim off more profits from the game? You start taking stuff out of the game.
Out of the game. Things that take time, things that take money, things that take more people.
Yeah.
All these things come out.
Things that potentially could be taken away are other game modes. So you have a lot of games like Gears of War 4. We've always talked about that. I think, I mean, of everything we've talked about, of everything we've talked about on the show, outside of this, Gears 4 is, I think, what we both believe is the game of the generation. The amount of content, you've got 100 gigs of content in that game.
We are still playing that game all the time. Still playing the game.
If I look at my friends list all the time, there's still multiple people playing it every day.
Yeah.
But look at what you've got there. You've got a campaign mode, single player campaign mode you can run through by yourself. You've got a co-op campaign mode you can run through with a friend. You've got versus mode. There's even a co-op versus mode if you have somebody else that wants to play with you in versus and you don't want to be against each other.
You can get together with your friend and you can either play the campaign or a versus mode.
And then on top of the versus mode, the co-ops, all of that, you've got a horde mode. You've got 3 games in one. In this title, 100 gigs of content there.
That people keep playing for years and years and that they keep maintaining for years and years.
If that developer is not allowed to make season passes, extra DLC that people pay for after the game comes out, or microtransactions, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to start cutting something there.
You're not going to get horde or you're not going to get co-op versus...
Yeah. Either they're going to start cutting modes or they're going to start reducing the size of everything. You're going to get smaller everything, smaller campaigns.
Smaller world.
Less characters, less options, less everything, and that's gonna grow. Eventually, this is gonna spread through all the devs that are out there, and what they're gonna do is start eliminating the risky things, the things that cost a lot of money,
the things we love that are really exciting.
I ask you, what is the most risky thing that we see in games? The riskiest thing is innovation.
Yeah.
So if innovation goes away, that means we're just getting homogenized copies of games that were already successful.
This is a culture change. Everything looks the same now.
Yes.
They're all the very traditional, normal modes that we know work. No experimental modes, no battle royale coming out in Fortnite like we just saw. Nothing experimental.
Or even worse, all you get is battle royale.
Or all you get is one mode. And they're going to continue taking things out. So they're going to shorten the game, or they're going to collapse the world down, or they're going to do both of those things, or they're going to take away the modes that give you value. The $60 price tag on Gears is incredibly low because we've been playing it for 2 years.
For the amount of content you have.
So happy.
And it's priced the same as every other game. That's insane.
So you start losing that, and let's think about who's in control of that. Who decides what we do and don't get at that point?
The publishers.
The publishers.
Yeah.
Not even the devs.
Yeah.
The devs will have a little say, maybe.
So the
devs
publishers
make that choice.
The devs are losing right now because everyone's making a big fervor about this, and then they lose again in the future.
Because the big publishers that have the big money, that's who makes all the decisions. Yeah. So now what we're saying by pushing and forging forward in this war is we're saying that it's okay for the publishers to control what we do and don't get moving forward.
Yeah.
And we're saying it's okay for them to take more content away and more away and more away every progressive year.
The more studios...
So where you've got cookie cutter games that are
Definitely.
all tiny and boring and plain. They don't have extra modes. They don't have extra anything.
One of the... There's many ironies here, but that's one of the horrible ironies that's going on is the more devs that shut down as a result of not being able to make enough money, the more control and power the publishers actually have.
Now you've just got a few devs. The publishers have complete control over those devs.
Mm-hmm.
And all your games look the same because the publishers are choosing it. Yeah. And the publishers aren't devs, so they're not people that would be who you would want choosing what content you're getting and you're not getting whatsoever.
Definitely, yeah.
So now the irony is the original situation, the microtransactions
was
that
the best
were optional,
possible...
was the best possible situation.
It was the best possible outcome that we've ever had. This has always been a problem in video games. There's always been devs shutting down. There's even publishers have gone under.
It's always been, and if you really look at history, you can see there's always been a really big fight to make enough money to go on and make your next game.
Yeah.
So they came out eventually at some point with microtransactions, and it really helped close that gap. And you can choose. I'm one of those people who's in there buying pink skins for my guns, and I don't mind. And if I'm helping other people who don't want to do that get the next game, I'm completely okay with that. And there's a percentage of us that like microtransactions. We're okay with them. And it's those people are paying for the path ahead.
Yes, definitely.
And now the irony is we've gotten rid of that. So we used to be able to control dollar by dollar what we had, what we didn't have, what we spent, what we wanted. And now all of that goes away. And they make the decisions for us. And they go, here's your cheap game.
That's the biggest irony of all. The sharks, the whales, the people that spend a lot of money that drop $1,000 on microtransactions. That guy that's doing that is funding the sequel to the next game
for everyone
that you only have to pay $60 for.
Yes,
you don't have to pay $1,000 like he did.
There are truly a lot of people that are perfectly okay with microtransactions and with paying for that.
Well, there was a poll that was released about 2 years ago where they actually asked. I want to say it was Steam. Might have been a different platform that had this poll. They found out that 70% of people that answered honestly in the poll said that they were okay with microtransactions.
Well, in here, before we go on from microtransactions, I will mention this. So there's been a lot of talk, or there's been a lot of justification for this big battle that we're in here about the fact that, well, no, I don't have a problem with microtransactions. I'm always hearing this, but I have a problem with pay to win, and that's what's happening. Then why did we have a giant war about Shadow of War?
Yes, they tried the same thing that happened.
Player.
Well, the same thing that happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2 happened with, or they tried to make it happen with Shadow of War. About, was it 6 months ago?
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
Right before release.
And here's the great irony about that is if you go into the marketplace for Shadow of Mordor, the game that preceded it, there's actually little microtransactions you can buy.
Are.
If you go into the store, you can see that.
No one said anything.
No one said anything there. So it's interesting that happened with the sequel. People backed off from Shadow of War. Why do you think that happened? What caused that?
Well, it ended up getting so many enhancements and ended up being such a good game and something that people were seeking.
Yeah,
they just decided to let it go.
I saw Xbox guys trying to rip apart Shadow of War.
And then they realized it's one of our most enhanced games that's
for
really
the
exciting to play.
And so they backed off.
And all of a sudden everybody's quiet. And then people are talking about Battlefront 2 and they're believing somebody on Reddit that says they did this giant experiment that they definitely didn't have the resources to do, where they spent this much money and they put this many hours in. You've got people who have the game at the same time saying, nope, got everything in 40 hours, no money. So it's all fake. It's all you're believing these agendas that you're hearing from wherever.
At least
they're not even true.
Prior to Star Wars Battlefront 2 releasing, at least 2 verified people that had the game ahead of time said that they unlocked every single thing in there without spending a single dollar on microtransactions within 40 hours.
And everybody ran with the other narrative instead.
With the Reddit post. Well, first of all, just don't believe anything you read or see on Reddit.
No, please.
That's the worst thing you can do.
So, I mean, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
You definitely had people who really had it, and they weren't being listened to because it didn't fit the narrative. It didn't fit the agenda people are trying to push.
People that don't have an agenda, aren't biased, aren't going to lie about that stuff. People that do have an agenda, and they're always bandwagon hopping, people jumping off and on.
They're going to sit there and lie, and then they're going to cause this to happen. Mm-hmm. And then we all have to pay for it in the end.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely going to be some repercussions from this.
Yeah, there's going to be repercussions for this.
That aren't good, yeah.
And the devs that are sitting there making their game right now are watching this happen, and it's influencing them, and it's going to influence the next phase until we don't have any control anymore. We can't buy our pink skins anymore. I can't have a pink gun, and I can't have a sequel to my game. Either one, because they're not making enough money. And the publishers are still winning, so we think we're going to hurt these big, giant publishers. No. You can't hurt a company that big. They got there for a reason. Yeah. Because they're going to take from everybody else. So they're going to take from the devs that create the games you want. And if there's no capitalist reward for doing something exciting and taking a risk and putting something extra, why would anybody do that?
I mean, even worse than that, if you can't make that money off of monetizing your game after it launches, how do you get that money back? You reduce the size of the team that works on the game. Everything starts to shrink.
Which reduces everything.
We start to regress. Biggest thing we're going to lose out of this is innovation is going to go away.
Which is really what's pulling gaming forward right now. Nobody wants to realize that. Everybody wants to think that it's what it's always been, and it'll go back to what it used to be when we didn't have the resources that we now have, because we don't have this option anymore. Yeah. So something interesting that fits the same pushing an agenda forward that we've seen recently actually isn't in video games. We're always talking about video games. We're always talking about the hidden agendas in the media and everything else. Justice League comes out.
Yes.
And in my opinion, I didn't think it was going to be good. I wasn't a big DC fan,
expectations
but it was amazing.
Were very low, and you loved it. It was
I loved it, and I'm not into the DC world. I didn't think I was going to be into this. I truly sat there and watched it. I've seen it a couple times now, and I truly loved it. It flowed. The timing was perfect. Everything about it was perfect, and I would normally be on more of a Marvel side. But I have to say the movie was spot on.
So I've seen the movie several times now, and I've seen it, I think, with about 8 different people. Each person I've seen it with, each group of people, loved it. They thought it was amazing.
Really good.
They're not people that spend a lot of time online. They don't see all of that criticism that comes through. So it doesn't really influence them at all. So they loved it. The people in the audience were loving it. You can always tell, like, when a movie's over, if everybody sticks around for those in-credit scenes, if they liked it or not. Because if people really didn't like it, they're like, I don't care.
Whatever. Yeah.
They just get up and leave. People were talking about all their favorite scenes and laughing about things that happened.
And waiting for the extra scene.
Yes, yeah. And so one of the times I saw it was before it had wide release. And I didn't know about that, the mustache thing, the CGI stuff that people are
I didn't know that the first time either, and it definitely, I know what the actor looks like. I definitely didn't notice it.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything different or wrong about the CGI at all. I actually thought CGI was better than most of the other comic book movies that I've seen recently.
Yeah, it looked legitimately like him. I wouldn't have noticed. And the second time that I saw it, I tried to watch for it because that was getting more attention than anything else about
it wasn't
the movie.
At first.
It wasn't at first. There was a wave where all of a sudden...
There was a 2-week period, or about a week period before it came out to wide population, where we were getting on social media, different types of social media, people that had seen it, their initial impressions. Everybody was saying the same thing. Everybody was saying, this movie's a lot of fun, it's really good, you're going to like it. Occasionally you'd see a little blurb inside of that said, there's some problems, there's some issues, but generally...
But I really have to compliment it.
It's a really good movie, yeah. And then that was steady up until it released. There was a couple of days of people still doing that. There was literally like 2 days. And then on day 3, it was this mustache business and this bad CG.
Like everybody got together and went, look, we got to do something. This is getting away. We don't want this to get away. And there's been an obvious media agenda for Marvel and against DC because you saw sites like IGN and GameSpot posting all day long about the CG mustache and about all these things, and posting like complimentary articles about Marvel. I don't know if you noticed that, but they were posting new articles they were writing about how great Marvel was when there's nothing Marvel going on right now. It's Justice League going on right now. And they weren't saying anything about Justice League to where it was blatantly obvious that they were intentionally not writing anything about it. Yeah. They were just posting everything else.
They were writing anything positive, yeah. I was looking at the social media for both IGN and GameSpot, and they were posting it so often, every few hours, that their own fans, people that are big fans of IGN and GameSpot,
that are in the tribe,
they're in the tribe, that read everything they do, started to ask them to stop posting anti-DC stuff.
To just stop.
And on some of these comments I read, some of the people were like, look, I'm actually a Marvel fan, and I don't like DC, and I'm still sick of seeing this. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was happening. You had people on their shows doing it, people on YouTube doing it, and it was all about this Actually, the criticisms at first weren't consistent. Nobody was saying the same thing. Nobody would say what they didn't like about it until they jumped on the mustache thing.
That was the bandwagon. That was the original bandwagon.
That was the bandwagon there.
Yeah.
One person was trying to make fun of it, and she posted up like a before and after. So one of the screenshots supposedly had
the CG.
The mustache removed, and then the other one supposedly was a shot from the same movie, Henry Cavill, is that his name?
Henry Cavill, yeah.
Cavill, where he didn't have a mustache at all, so they didn't remove it. Well, people in the comment section for that post were guessing the wrong one. That's how not noticeable it was.
It seriously wasn't. Once I realized that this was something they were trying to make a thing, when I saw it again and I looked, I was like, no, that's what he looks like, 100%. If you didn't know about that, you would not have discovered anything.
Even further than that, though, if a mustache is the thing that's ruining a film for you...
Like, unless they completely butched his entire face up to where, like, you couldn't tell it was even the same person,
but
why would it matter?
How does a mustache ruin the script?
It doesn't.
How does it ruin the storyline?
It doesn't even... and we're talking, like, even if it was really bad, it couldn't ruin the script and the movie. Yeah. It would have just... And it was only in a couple of scenes anyhow.
Well, it's funny that people became a CG expert there.
All of a sudden,
everyone on the internet's a CG expert. And then the Marvel thing, and I got to say something. I am a Marvel fan. The only comic books I ever read as a kid were Marvel comics, X-Men, and the only comic book I read start to finish was the Infinity Saga leading up to the Infinity War. That's literally the only one I've ever read every single issue of. Yeah. So I'm a fan. My best friend works for Marvel. He gave me this.
Yep.
This was something he got on the set. Not a lot of people have these. Very few of these in existence. So I'm there. I'm on the Marvel side.
Definitely.
And I'm telling you, this is some agenda, BS, bandwagon hopping, worse than I've seen in a while.
Just blatant, obvious, in-your-face sabotage at its very best.
And getting back to what I was saying, they just released a new trailer for Infinity War. And 2 of the shots in that trailer look really bad. The shot of Spider-Man, which is CG, and one of the shots of Thanos looks just atrocious. I've got the screenshots, and I'm looking at them like, if you can't criticize one thing and not the other.
Like, if we're going to talk about CG and we're all going to be experts,
where's all the experts at on this?
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. So it's really interesting, and I just feel like, in general, I feel like the whole theme of this video goes with a lot of things that have just progressively gotten worse as we've been doing this, where people are just making it less and less... sly. They're not trying to sneak a little bit of bias in here and there anymore. It's like, nope, this is my agenda. You follow me or you don't. And we've got big people just pulling their train along and saying, nope, this is my agenda. And nobody, including the person starting and forging the agenda, is thinking about the consequences. Yeah. I guarantee you that Kotaku article, they didn't think about what could happen to gaming as a whole if we really push this that far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking about the consequences, we're seeing those in some gaming. We're going to see more in the future. But we're also seeing it with film now with the DCEU. They just announced that they're going to reorganize in January, which means they could end up cutting some of their films or trying to figure out another way to do this. Really, what I think they need to do is just reduce the cost of it. Marvel has done something very, very good with movies like Spider-Man Homecoming, Doctor Strange, and Ant-Man, where they're actually really not that expensive. And so they have no chance of not making their money back.
Again, it's the script. That's what you really need.
Those 3 films were the best scripts.
They were the best scripts.
Since the second Avengers movie, those have been the best 3 movies that have come out.
Absolutely.
In Phase 3, I've only liked 2 of the films. One was Doctor Strange and the other one was Spider-Man Homecoming.
It's true. This entire phase has been really disappointing for Marvel.
Most of the movies...
And that's me going in wanting to love them, wanting to have the highest compliments, and it's like, oh man, they're just not on point.
No doubt about it.
They just aren't. So as we're wrapping up, there's one more thing that I want to mention, and I'm just going to barely mention it because I really don't even want to talk about this, but I have to.
I know what you mean.
So this article comes out about the Game Awards.
Yeah, Game Awards.
From none other than IGN. And speaking of bias and an agenda, because that's what this is really about, it specifically says, here's the top 10, the winners and the losers of the Game Awards.
I just got to say something. Don't even tell the audience who wrote it.
I'm not even going to say who wrote it. You might be able to read between the lines here.
Oh, they'll know.
If not, then So I'll read the article. I'll read the winners and the losers. Biggest winners. Nintendo. Sony.
They didn't win any awards, did they?
I don't believe so, no.
So you're a big winner at an award show.
I'll tell you why in a second.
Okay.
Joseph Fares, Cuphead, Campo Santo. Biggest losers, Microsoft. And I'll just stop there because I would like to read why Microsoft is a loser.
They actually did win awards, though. Cuphead.
They did. Yeah. And which Cuphead is in the winners list.
I want to say Forza 7 as well.
Yeah. So it says, if Microsoft wonders why it continues to lag behind Sony in both market share and mind share this generation, it should look no further than how it approached the Game Awards. And basically goes on to say they did not bring any reveals. They brought exactly 0 reveals or world premieres to the show outside of a release date trailer for its biggest new IP in years, which is Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say that was an ad sandwiched between other ads. Yeah. Which is very similar to what we said about the whole Game Awards being that way. So why Microsoft, though, and not everybody else? Sony, the reason Sony's on the winners list is because they showed a trailer for Dreams and Death Stranding. Which
were already revealed and everyone knew about.
Right. So those are not world premieres or...
That doesn't even qualify for
reveals.
what they were saying. Yeah.
So it doesn't qualify for what they're saying, first of all. It doesn't. Yeah. Microsoft and Sony have different qualifications in the same article. But more importantly, this is the Game Awards.
Yeah, yeah.
So you literally have people saying the Game Awards were so great... But realistically, the whole thing was just an ad.
Yeah, and you're criticizing Microsoft for not advertising.
You're criticizing them for not advertising, not for not winning awards, and this is the Game Awards show.
And you want to know why Microsoft didn't advertise? Because they were snubbed for 4 years running at the Game Awards.
This whole thing has been rigged for so long against Microsoft. So they decided, once and for all, let's just stop entertaining this silly notion of this
Stop entertaining Jeff Keighley.
Yeah, stop entertaining the people who are insulting your brand.
Who, by the way, is now a hero, apparently, on social media and podcasting.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
It happens.
Interesting. Yep. So you have all these people saying that the Game Awards were really great and that PSX was really bad. And the Game Awards was supposed to be an award show, but was definitely mostly ads and
it was just one big microtransaction.
Yeah, it was like one big microtransaction. They were just trying to get your money the whole time. And then PSX wasn't that way. They weren't revealing new stuff. They did show some of those trailers we just mentioned.
Talking about the things that we've been wanting to know.
They're giving us real information, real talk with devs and things like that. And so you have all these people saying, I don't want to be sold. I don't want all these microtransactions. I don't want to spend any more money. And you're complimenting the Game Awards for advertising to you, for trying to take your money.
Literally.
And then you're saying PSX sucked because they didn't advertise to you and try to take your money.
There's literally compliments in that very article about the advertisements.
Yeah, it was all about that. They're acting like it's E3 where we're supposed to be doing reveals and we're supposed to be advertising. Yeah. But that's not supposed to be what the Game Awards is.
No.
And PSX... very specifically, and people are comparing PSX to Gamescom with Microsoft. Both of those shows were supposed to be that way. They were supposed to be shows where they just had some real conversation and dove into some more important aspects of how the development happens. They weren't, they both told you, we're not here to advertise. This is not E3. We're not showing you our new trailers. We're going to have real talk. And to me, I would put the highest compliments on that. But apparently... we have a couple of different things happening at the same time where we don't want to be sold and we do.
Everything that used to be is now backwards and upside down, and everybody seems okay with it.
Yeah, the narrative constantly changes and switches spots, and everybody's like, yep, this is...
The narrative, bigger than that, the agendas.
Constantly. Yeah. It's crazy. And I mean, you talk about having an agenda... that article is a great example of having an agenda. Completely anti-Microsoft.
Somehow, I don't know how you watch that and then figure out a way to attack Microsoft out of it. That's incredible.
It is just so blatant. We've said the word blatant about several different things tonight, and it is just so blatant. Oh, no, Microsoft didn't come advertise. They suck. That's what that boiled down to.
They shouldn't be. They got snubbed every year.
And why would they come to the awards show to advertise anyway?
They've been treated like crap at awards shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Which now it's interesting because Sony is starting to be in that.
Now they've kind of switched places here. It's interesting.
Sony got starting to get snubbed.
So we'll see next year if they advertise.
And I can't wait to see next year, but I really can't wait to see the article that follows next year because that'll be even more interesting. Couple big shout outs. Just like with the last couple weeks, somebody that we should have shouted out a long time ago, should have shouted out several times, is Death Mobile. So shout out to Death Mobile. He's always leaving really, well thought out and intelligent comments.
Yeah. His comments are great. Like, and not only does he always, very thoroughly leave these amazing comments on our videos and like promote our stuff as well, but he's a better writer than the people that write for IGN
than this article
and
right
GameSpot.
here. Seriously.
Yeah.
He really thinks out and structures his writing, and
Yes.
he leaves us really good feedback, and he leaves us, when he has the opposing
Yes.
viewpoint, he leaves us that, and when he has a viewpoint similar to ours, he expands it. So we really appreciate his comments, and shares all of our stuff, comments on our stuff. So shout out
Greatly
to Death
appreciate
Mobile.
that.
And then Fastback and Jazzy Noop also should have been shouted out quite some time ago.
Yeah, definitely.
They're always sharing our stuff and saying nice things. So if you are sharing our stuff and saying nice things about us, let us know. We're going to keep trying to circle back because I know we've missed a lot of people like Gary from last week and Death Mobile from this week that should have been shouted out a long time ago. So
and Fastback and Jazzy as well.
Yeah, so we're cycling back through and trying to find all those people
let us know.
and stuff. But let us know if you should be on that list.
If you're sharing our stuff, if you're helping us out. Hopefully you'll continue to do that after these videos, because I know a lot of these topics that we went over are not the popular stance. You're supposed to be
we don't have the popular stance here.
You're supposed to be anti-microtransactions. You're supposed to be apparently pro-game awards these days.
Who knew?
And that's not how we're seeing things. We're looking at a much greater scope of information and really trying to dissect that step by step as we get closer to uncovering what's really going on out there.
Yeah.
What we're seeing going on out there is agendas galore. Everybody's got an agenda. And then the bandwagon hopping, either you're hopping on something, you're hopping off something. People don't seem to have the ability to think for themselves anymore.
They're not researching for themselves. And our big goal, and hopefully you can tell in our videos, that our big goal is to always have the most research into it and the most thought, not into what we actually like or don't like, but into what are the future effects of these things, or what's really happening with this, or what else happened at this same time that you maybe aren't factoring in when you're looking at one event, and just having that bigger scope.
Yeah.
And when you look at the bigger scope of some of these things, I can understand the other perspective on microtransactions, but at the same time, I think it's important to think way down the road. Where does this go?
It's interesting that you can understand that other perspective, because it's just not even logical. Not a single argument I've heard on the other side is logical.
Yeah.
It's not based in logic. It's
no,
based
not
in
at all.
It's based in knee-jerk reactions.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
It's just based on wanting. The only thing I understand on the other side of the perspective is wanting to spend your money for the game and just spend your money for the game. And so when I'm saying I understand the other side, what I'm really saying is I understand not wanting to participate in them, not wanting to buy them.
Yeah.
I don't understand not wanting them to be there because of what we've talked about. The bigger scope of that is it becomes standardized. It becomes limited to where
definitely
we're just not getting the content anymore. So
you're going to get less. If you complain about those things that are optional, then your options are taken away from you.
Exactly. And then you have no choice that you can make anymore. It's not a choice of buying something or not buying something. It's so much bigger than that. So
we'll see if prices of games go up. It's very possible.
Very interesting. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. It'll be interesting to see your comments. So let us know what you think.
We
Hopefully
would love.
You can see our perspective, but we would love to know.
Yeah, we'd love to know if you have an actual argument that isn't a knee-jerk reaction, that isn't a bandwagon argument that you heard somebody else
something
spew.
really in favor of why microtransactions.
Yeah, our comment section, by the way, in the last video was incredible. Those were the best comments I've ever seen. That really made both of us happy to see all those great comments, because we were a little iffy on that video. We knew it was going into this controversial stuff.
Yeah.
So we really like our subscribers and want you to continue to follow. So talk to us about that stuff.
Yeah, let us know what you think. We're always open to the opposing viewpoint, especially if you have a logical argument for the other side. So
definitely
let us know what you think. We'll be interested to see on any of these topics. And is that it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, we might be doing. I gotta talk to him and see, but we might be doing something on Crossfire at some point in time before the end of the year. I gotta see what Mitch is up to.
Yeah, like an end of year show type of thing, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully if we can. We haven't had a chance to talk because things have been so crazy, but yeah, hopefully that should be coming.
That's something to look forward to. We'll let you know. We'll post about that. But yeah, that's it, right?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching.